Hey, Source Moochers, my name is Ramsey. I am the composer for the Boyfriend Dungeon soundtrack. Boyfriend Dungeon is a dungeon-crawling dating sim in which you date your weapons and they transform into these beautiful hunks and babes during these Sailor Moon-style-esque transformation sequences. So if I was a weapon, I'd be a butter knife because I'm absolutely harmless. The soundtrack is really poppy and upbeat. We went for a very poppy sound, and me and Madeline, the singer, are actually represented in the soundtrack in the game, and that's really cool. Today, I want to do a deep dive on Never Lose. It was a dungeon traversal track originally conceived as, and the team liked it more as a boss battle style track. So I want to take you on a quick deep dive on that. And without further delay, grab your favorite weapon. I've got my dagger right here, and let's go. Alright, so how was Never Lose created? Well, it starts with usually one instrument in most of my songs. And in this case, we really wanted to go after something that was haunting, something that sounded almost possessed or otherworldly, like a ghost. We really wanted to convey the sense that you were haunted by your past, maybe, and that going to Verona Beach was something of an escape for you. That you could leave your past woes behind, and so that's a lot of data. That's like a lot of information you want to transmit to the player via a track, and to achieve something like that, I used my mini-log. So if you don't know, a mini-log is a Korg synthesizer, and it's normally a noisy, buzzy synthesizer, and it's not great for ambient stuff, although it can be used for anything really. I managed to get this ambient patch from it, and this is basically the beginning riff that started this whole song. So we have this like haunting bass line. When I say bass line, I don't mean bass instrument. I mean like a foundation for a track. So this is like a sharp cymbal sound, and most likely I chose this because of its resemblance to a weapon sheath. And so we want to... I injected a lot of cool bits of weapon sounds into the soundtrack. And I love using sound design as a way to express the gameplay, you know. And even though, you know, you want to get creative with it because you don't want it to clash with the sound effects that are already happening in the game. So on this, I've added different things to make it kind of stand out more, you know, not be mistaken for just gameplay. Moving on, we've got to add to that. So altogether, we got the haunting synth, and then on top of that, we've got a floaty synth. This floaty synth is also very integral to the song. We also have vocal samples. And what I've done here is I've taken a track of Madeline singing. I think it was for this. And I've cut it up and put it onto a sampler. Here is said sampler. Right. And these are all Madeline's little vocalizations that I've tweaked and done different things to. So you can see for this one, I've panned it to the side. So it goes off to the side. Okay, and so now moving on to the most important, arguably the most important part of this track, the vocals. And the lyrics and the vocals for this song and the music really go hand in hand to sell the vibe to the player that you must under no circumstances lose. Defeat is not an option, and you must succeed. But to what end, and why are we succeeding? And what is the point of this? And I gotta say, Madeline wrote all the lyrics, and she did an amazing, phenomenal job bringing that feeling of, you know, you're exploring this dangerous place, and with this person that, you know, may or may not be a stranger. And then when I say person, I really mean the weapon. that you're falling in love with. And there's an element of danger to it, but there's also an element of we're going to get through this. And she did a great job with it. As far as her vocal chain, I have usually pretty simple, well, somewhat simple setups. De-esser, really good if you have a lot of sibilants in the vocals, a lot of the S's and the those kind of plosives. I've got multi-band compressor, just a really good all-around compressor. Honestly, I have over-processed this. This is not something I would do today. This is probably just due to lack of experience and understanding how to route and chain things properly. I've got a compressor. See, we don't really need both the multi-band compressor and the compressor. I might be smashing her vocals way too hard, to be honest. And, in this context, it worked out, but it's something to keep in mind of. I've got Reverence, which is just reverb, pretty much. And I'm using really Cubase's stock plugins to mix all of this. I think they sound fine, and I recommend that any artists really just use what's available to them. I don't tend to gravitate towards the most expensive thing out there. So as you can see, for most of this, I'm using stock Cubase plugins. And so I've got Reverence here. I've got it on a large Viennese Hall. And then finally, I've got the One Knob. I love this plugin. It's basically a DJ sweep knob, but for low end only. And I just love what it does. It's really, really helpful for all sorts of things. Although I don't even know if I'm using it. Oh, yeah, I do use it here. Yeah. So you can see it's a very high quality pot, basically, that when you turn, it just gives you the full spectrum, and you can change the resonance from high, extreme, none, moderate. Good stuff. And finally, let me just talk a bit about the percussion. I'm using a few different plugins: Easy Drummer, Groove Agent, Contact 7, which I think is using Damage. Yes, we are using Damage. And more Damage, and that's it. And then they're going through a group and then through a parallel compressor. So first of all, I've got these, and so this is Easy Drummer, right? And it doesn't normally sound like this. However, I am running it through a few different filters: Quadra Fuzz, One Knob filter, and that's giving you the nice bit crushed kind of sound. Which is in the background of the full song, most of the song. Yeah. So you barely notice that, actually, but I think it adds a nice crunchiness to the whole track. Then I've got real drums. So another Easy Drummer module playing this here together. And then we've got Groove Agent, which I've applied my own samples to. Well, they're Cubase stock samples, but it's a modified kit that I made. And that's just playing the main drum beat. And then Damage, which I utilize heavily, extensively in all my projects. I really love it. They actually released a new one that I'm thinking about getting. And these are just basically highly processed, already mixed percussion hits. And they're really good for selling a mood. I mean, they're just fantastic for giving you... For boss battles, amazing. And that's what these sound like. All together, gives you that heavy, smack. That is probably, those and the vocals and the bass are really the crux that form this song. But then the haunted synth is really the thing that makes it unique. It makes it its own thing. I mean, if you take everything out except for the synth, or, I mean, if you leave everything in except for the synth, you really have a pretty generic, just, it's just bass and drums. It's nothing really special. But you add the synth, you add some vocal samples, and then you add Madeline's unique voice and what we did with it, and you have our track. So, yeah, that was a deep dive of Never Lose. I want to thank you so much for watching it. And currently I'm working on Project Dosa with Outer Loop Games, and I encourage everyone to go check that out. Wishlist it on Steam. Me and my dagger have a long day ahead of us, so I will be seeing everybody later. Take care, thank you, and free Palestine.